I mean, the amount of mileage I put on my car just to go and do a 5-minute spot.
Yeah, all of that for
Just
5 minutes. It's true.
yeah, and people are like, for real? I'm like,
Yeah,
you
it's
gotta
like,
understand. Unless you know what it feels like, you don't understand
It
the
sounds
worth.
insane. Yeah,
It-
unless you know about it, you sound like cracked in the head, really.
It's zero compensation, right? Like a
Yeah.
lot of times. I mean, how many shows have we done for
I'm
zero?
losing money
And-
doing comedy.
And yeah, exactly. And you don't care, man.
I don't
If you
care.
love it, you.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is season 2, episode 29 of Shooting the Breeze. And tonight, my guest is Dan Allaire. Dan is a comic and a radio personality based out of Cornwall. I almost said Kingston. Cornwall.
Yeah. I was
Welcome.
just there, though.
You were just yes, you were just there. So thank you for joining me tonight.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So yes, you were hosting at Absolute in Kingston.
Yeah, I was completely blessed to be able to host a weekend and a half. I hosted the Saturday and Valentine's show the weekend prior, and then Wednesday to Saturday this last weekend at Absolute
nice.
in Kingston. And well, Jason had booked me in January to host a weekend, and obviously there was nothing happening then.
Right.
So I would say about an hour after Doug Ford made the announcement, my phone rang and he asked me if I would do a weekend, and I'm like, yes, please.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like many people that do comedy, we were all itching to get back up there. So
for sure.
I've managed to squeeze in 6 shows in the last week and a half. So I'm very excited. I still feel like I got some rust, just a little bit of rust to shake off. You know, there's still no real rhythm there, but doing 4 shows in a row just this past weekend, it's almost surreal. You know, I was on my way home Saturday night just thinking, did I really just do 4 shows in a row? Like, because it had been so long since there was any consistency.
Right.
But it felt amazing. The crowds were good, and it was just a fun weekend.
Oh, that's amazing. That's fantastic. Yeah, I've played Absolute Kingston a few times. I love it. It's so much fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it's totally fun club. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope to get back there soon. You know, I hope to get back there soon. So how was the last, like, until things opened up last week, how was this third lockdown for you?
I think it was an interesting one because the first one, I think we started out with a positive attitude and then we kind of let it get to us a little bit. The second one for us, we didn't. When you locked down in Ottawa, we didn't, right? They had just done the hot spots for a little while.
That's right.
So this one here on Boxing Day, we kind of decided as a family that we weren't gonna let it kind of impact us this time, because there did seem to be some light at the end of the tunnel early. Like, they didn't appear to want to go beyond a good 28 days. So we, we were working out at home. We were eating right. We walked a ton. We got outside.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram pictures.
Yeah, well, we have a great trail system around here, whether you want to go far or brief. And because it's been a fairly mild winter, we were able to get outside quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And that helped a tremendous amount, just to get outside and be in the sunshine when it was sunny, and just trying to stay as active as we can, and filled our days with activities, from working out to making new recipes to taking those walks, so that you'd be like, well, I guess we'll watch a few Netflix shows and then go to bed and go back to work the next morning. So it still made Friday feel like Friday, and I think that was the most important part, that our weekends still felt precious, so that we were off and not having to do any work-related things, and there was no comedy, so I wasn't on the road doing a show somewhere. We were home all the time, so our weekends were good. So I feel like the last one we dealt with okay. The first one we started strong, and I still remember the first picture of me on stage after the first one, and I was like, oh my God, I knew I put on a couple of pounds, but wow, okay, that's what I look like. So there was a lot of catching up to do on that one. This particular time, as I made my way to Kingston this weekend, I was able to pack. I call them comedy T-shirts, right? I'm a T-shirt comic. I don't dress up too much, and so I was able to pick and choose from my roster of comedy T-shirts that I like to wear, because this time we really focused on trying to be a little healthier and not just getting down on ourselves because we couldn't get out and see and do things or people. So I think we fared well. Now, do I want to do another one? Hell no, I don't want to do another one. I gotta taste this weekend of what peopling is like again.
Yeah.
Because comedy aside, I got together with a couple of guys as well too. On the Friday night after the show, I had a couple of beers downtown in Kingston with Jeff Nixon and Pete Ignatoff. And
I love those two guys. I love
yeah,
those two.
so you can imagine all we did was talk comedy and laugh our
Shenanigans.
asses off. Oh yeah, exactly. Well, and that's it. We just sat there and just talked comedy for hours and just had a few pints. And at one point the night should have been done, but they were like, hey, you want to have a beer at this place? And we didn't need to, but I think the three of us had just not peopled in so long. We had a couple extra drinks that were completely unnecessary. But I think we just got, we all agreed the next day when we kind of caught back up and compared hangovers that night was just three guys who, it had been a long time since we had seen each other.
Yeah.
But B, just to be able to go out and do that, meet your friends, have a drink, catch up, talk comedy, and then go crash and not have to get up the next. Because that's the thing, I was not living reality, right? Because I was staying at the Comedy House in Kingston, so I just got to sleep in, and I had no responsibility other than to find a place to have brunch in the morning. So it was. This week I have to work now. I got to go back to work this week. So
the nerve.
My alarm's going off at 4:00 again every morning. So it's it was a great weekend. It was not that I needed one, but it was a fun reminder of how much I love this crazy ride of stand-up comedy, and how much I missed it. And I know it'll come back slow but sure and steady. And we just got to be patient and take the mics we can get and the shows we can get on, and just keep working at it. I did some new stuff on the weekend. I did some older stuff on the weekend. I blew the dust off a couple of things I hadn't done in a long time, and the reception to everything was pretty good. I felt really good about what I was putting out there on the weekend. So now I'm anxious to see if it'll work everywhere else as well.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, those two, Jeff and Pete, I love them so much.
Yeah, they're clowns,
guys. I love them so much. Yeah. So.
And I mean that affectionately when I call them clowns. By the way, I'm not.
The best type of clown.
Just to watch the two of them do this, right? Because they live in the same town, so they hang out all the time. So sometimes I just sat there for 10 minutes, and I just let them go at each other, and I was entertained. I should almost just shot some Facebook Live at one point.
Funny. When the two of them are together, they're hilarious.
It was, they should cast them in the Muppet movie Statler and Waldorf. They're in their 30s, in their 30s, and here they are in Kingston.
Yeah, they're great guys. They're awesome guys. Yeah, because I was on for the when we were talking before we went live. I got a spot on the Lotto show on Thursday at Yuck Yucks, and that felt really good.
And how many comics showed up? I know that if I would have been an Ottawa comic, that's one show I definitely would have been at.
I expected a lot more. There weren't. We were maybe 20, 25.
Well, that's a good number.
Yeah, it was okay. I was expecting a lot more, and I think
how many did they let up?
I think we were maybe 10.
Oh wow. Okay, so there were a lot of disappointed comedians that night then, right?
Yeah, because I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I would say no more than 20. I don't think, I'd say no more than 20. And I think they called up about 10, 8 to 10, something like that. and it felt good to be up there. I just had to readjust to like the plexiglass again.
Yep, back in the fishbowl.
Back in the fishbowl. And then I was on New Talent Showcase last night, and that was a lot of fun, except for the assholes that were in the front row talking the whole time. They were awful.
People, you know what? I was lucky. Of all the shows we did on the weekend, there was only, I think, really only one time as the host I had to like scold a table and like try and like settle them down. When one of the feature acts was up, she kind of looked at them at one point and called them out. And then when I got back up there, they were still talking. And I feel like the second time they got the message, so they didn't get out of hand. But I mean, we've all either hosted or been at a show where there's just a table there that for some reason it seemed like a good idea to go to a comedy show, but they don't know how it works, and they just continue to talk to each other and try and engage the comedian. And it's like, I don't mind doing a little bit of crowd work, but all these other people here want to hear some of the jokes that I have prepared that I brought with me tonight. They don't want to just hear me talk to you guys.
Right. Oh yeah, because they were obnoxious, and like I went bullet, so they were still like, they were hyper when I got up there. And I remember looking at them and I was like, not today, you guys, like this. And they're like, this.
I've been waiting 28 days to get on this fucking stage. You're going to shut your goddamn mouths.
Exactly. And like I try to videotape all my sets. And so I was watching it last night, and there were 2 times I shot daggers at them.
Oh yeah,
like
I was going to say,
I'm just like,
could you see the smoke coming off your head?
Like lasers coming out of my eyes. And at one point I went, excuse me, because they're just like, and I was just like, oh my God. Like, I don't want to tell them to shut the fuck up, which is what I want to say, but I'm like, they're customers, they're buying stuff, they're paying, but come on, and they were a nightmare.
Yeah, to the guy or a girl who said the customer is always right, fuck you, because that's not true. That's not true. Yeah, definitely not true.
Exactly. But they were awful, and so we all hated them, of course. But there was one woman who got up because one of the women at this table had the audacity to complain to the staff about being told to keep quiet. Meanwhile, she's like shrieking and freaking out while someone's on stage. And a woman in the audience came up and she was like, you need to shut the fuck up, like right now. And then she went and sat down. And we're like, yeah.
Not all heroes wear capes. And I love it when the audience polices themselves. That's the best.
Yes. And like, we all wanted to like pay her tab and all of that. But she like Batman, gone into the night. Like as soon as the show, she was gone. We were all looking for her, because we wanted to say thanks and like pay her tab. And I know the staff wanted to give her tickets or something for another show. And she was like gone in the night. But it was fun. Like I got to see people that haven't seen in a while. And and you don't realize how much you miss people. Like I miss peopling, even though I'm not a big peopler. I miss people,
Yeah, see, I am such a people person too, and like some of my closest friends in Cornwall, I still have yet to see them, and and the other side of it is I'm an affectionate guy, right? Like I'm a hugger and a handshaker and all those things, and that's been gone, right? Like a lot of times, somebody where it's nothing for me to hug him or her, and now it's like it's either this or this, and it's I'm anxious for that to be gone.
Yeah. I had someone go like this.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I forgot, I totally forgot. And I was like, I felt hurt, but I was like, okay. But it was like recoiled in horror. And it's like, I really hope that we can go back to hugging one day.
Yeah, someday.
Oh my God. So, in terms of comedy, like when did you get started?
Interestingly enough, I don't remember what came up in my memories that brought me back to the date. The first time I ever did it was in April 2017.
Okay.
And it seems like a long time ago, and it's like, oh geez, you got your start in 2017. Well, that was the first time I ever did comedy, but I didn't do it again for another calendar year.
Wow.
So I started with three buddies in Cornwall: Mike Baird, Simon McClendon, and Jamie Carr. And we still do shows together. We call ourselves the Questionable Comedians. And this thing started as a fundraiser, and we were going to do it one time to raise money for a women's shelter called Baldwin House, and that was going to be it. And the show sold out. There was about 75 people. And I'm not going to name them. We had two comedians that had some experience that we knew, and the two of us who had, me and Mike, who had never done comedy in our lives. And both of us had really fun sets. And the two guys that we put on the show, because they had some experience, they had a rough go. Like, it was a really rough go. And when we had one of them like feature the show, right? Because we're like, oh, he's got more experience than us, so let's put him last. And it didn't quite work out that way. But the night was a huge success. So a year later, we thought, you know what? Let's do it again. And we just changed up the roster. One of the comics that really did not click didn't live in Cornwall anymore, so we replaced him with Jamie Carr, and he's been a mainstay since. And we did two sold-out shows that second year, again for fundraisers. And then I think we did about 4 or 5 fundraisers in the fall, winter for different organizations. And unexpectedly, now we're getting asked to do these comedy shows because people are enjoying our stand-up, and we're helping raise, like, we've raised almost $30,000 locally through
that's
comedy
amazing.
shows that we've done. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. And I mean, I think we did 3 shows this summer, 4 summer, fall, and they all sold out. And so every show we make a donation to a local organization, and and one of the guys owns the bar where we do it, so we don't take a pay. We just let him keep the door, because we're like, look, man, your livelihood got screwed over by this thing, and I still have my regular job in radio. So we did some stuff. So my first almost 2 years or year and a half, there wasn't a lot of comedy, right? And the thing was, we were just repeating the same sets to new people, because at that point I still hadn't decided I wanted to do comedy and more. And then it was that 2019, really, in the summer, I sat down with the guys and I said, look, man, I love that we do this, but I don't want to do it another year from now, or pray we get a gig in 2-3 months from now. I think I want to give it a shot. And that's when my pal Dylan Black, who you have on here Friday. I reached out to him and I was like, Dylan, you know everyone in Ottawa. Do you know anyone at Yuck Yucks or Absolute? And he introduced me via email to Howard Wagman. I went and met Howard at the club. I don't know if that's still the case, but you go and meet Howard and you tell him your story a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then you send your email to get on an NTS. And so I did that. And the night of, I can't remember if it was the night I met him or the night of my NTS, I signed up for the Mike McDonald comedy competition.
Right.
And because Howard said, look, if you're really serious about this, it'd be a really good experience for you to kind of get up there on a night like that and go for it. I was like, all right. So I did it. I got in, and man, I still can't believe this. Every now and then I still like, man, I made it to the final. I was like,
you
it was
got all the way to the finals.
That's
amazing.
I won the wild card that year against some top-notch comics. To this day, I still think they're hilarious people. And I still remember sitting in the green room before the finals, just looking around going I have no business being in here. But I had a magical night, man. That last night, the final night, I had a hell of a set. I felt so good when I came off stage. It was great. And if I wasn't already hooked, I mean, that kind of did it for me. It gave me the confidence to know that, the jokes that I'm writing and the material that I seem to be picking seem to be connecting with people. But my morning show in radio isn't stand-up comedy, but, we're a rock station and there's so much news and sports available at your fingertips every day that we try and, tell stories of the weird and odd and fun and
Right.
interesting, because people don't listen to us for, the latest news or my political views. So I think that's kind of how I approach comedy, is I try and, I don't go too hard. Like, I didn't have Donald Trump material. I don't really have Trudeau material. Like, I don't do politics too much.
Yeah. Same.
But I do have some fun COVID-19 stuff. I created a COVID-19 Monopoly game, which I enjoy performing, and I talk about Dr. Tam and the BC CDC, and that's kind of the extent of my COVID stuff. But it's hard to say like I'm 4 years in or 3 years in or 2 years in, because the first real year of comedy was really 2019, and we all know 2020 was an absolute shit show. And I was busy. When I started the year, I was like, man, this is a lot of fun. I was doing a lot of yuck satellite shows, and it was a lot of fun. And Howard would bring me in on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday. I worked a weekend at Christmas when Tommy Marshall recorded his album. Like, I was like, this is amazing. And I didn't think I was like, I'm going to make it. I was just like, it's just fun to do these shows.
Just enjoying the ride.
And have a crowd. Oh, it was, I mean, the amount of mileage I put on my car just to go and do a 5-minute spot.
Yeah. All of that for 5 minutes. It's true.
Yeah. And people are like, for real? I'm like, you got to understand. Unless you know what it feels like, you don't understand the
sounds
worth.
Insane. Unless you know about it, you sound like cracked in the head, really.
It's zero compensation, right? Like a lot of times, I mean, how many shows have we done for zero?
I'm losing money doing comedy.
And yeah, exactly. And you don't care, man. If you love it, and I did a lot of research at the beginning, and almost everyone who I thought could offer proper advice all said the same thing. Like, if you're trying to make money, if your goal is to like just go and start making money, just quit now, because that's not how this works.
You do it else. Yeah.
You do it because you love it. You got to be really good at it. You got to work the material. I mean, you got to be funny, but you also have to like just pay your dues and do your time. And I'm not done doing all of that yet, but I still enjoy the ride. And it's been a ton of fun. So my first set was 4 years ago, but truth be told, I think if you were to add up all of the time that we've been able to do everything, I'm just over 2 years in, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, because I started September of 19.
Yeah, so you didn't even get a full calendar year in before the world shut down.
Exactly. But the thing is, it's because because I started so late, I was like, I tried to get on stage as often as I can. I did as much as I could, so yeah.
It helps being in Ottawa too, right? Because for me, I'm in Cornwall, and right now there's one show that happens in Cornwall and I'm producing it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the guy doing it. And then there's a new show that I've started up in Alexandria, which I'm very excited to have you back to come and do that one on March 6th.
Yeah, my birthday. Woo!
Yeah, so we're doing shooters that night.
Doing shooters.
I love it.
Drive me home.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, nobody get a carpool. No one take a ride from Simone. Just get her there, and we're going to get her ripped after the show. Well, as long as we do it before 9 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're orange here. Right?
Start at like 3 in the afternoon.
But so when I was trying to find open mics, I had to travel a lot, right? So I did most of the rooms in Ottawa. Like, I did Bureaucracy a bunch before it closed.
I still do that place. Yeah.
I still remember, I think one night Tavis had asked me if I would feature, and I think at the end of the night on the Pay What You Can, I got, instead of a Wilfrid Laurier, I got a $10 bill, and I was like, I got a Sir John A instead of a Wilf. Like,
woo!
Look at this. I should have framed it, right? My first feature, but it was just like, I wasn't used to having anyone hand me anything after a show. But I've done a bunch too. I've done a bunch of rooms in Montreal, finding a room in the middle of nowhere in Montreal and walking in and seeing a couple of comics that I had maybe met on a Newbie Tuesday at the Nest and a bunch of others, and then realizing, oh, there's 11 people here and 4 of them aren't comics.
Yeah.
But you know, that to me, I think those are the nights you learn, right? You got to get up, and if somehow you can connect with 4 people, when you get 40 or 200 or whatever it is, it's going to be that much better. So I always try. Another piece of advice I'm sure you got from 1,000 other comics is you never waste a second of my time, whether there's 4 people or 40 people or 14. You do your set as if you're performing at a club somewhere, and that your next gig is dependent on how they respond to you and how you perform. And I think that was beneficial to me because it's like radio, right? I can't take a day off of energy and enthusiasm because everyone will hear it. Yes. And so I approach comedy in that same way where, I've been to open mics where I don't know if it's just because it's their 4th open mic of the week or whatever it is, but I've seen comics go up there and I'm like, oh man, it's just so painful to watch not because they're bombing. It just doesn't seem like they're into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not because the crowd's all sitting. It's not like the crowd's all sitting there and not into their stuff. They're getting laughs, but it's just like, I don't know. I just get the sense that you're just going through some motions here, and I'm like, I'm so desperate to get up there and do it that it was a ton of fun, and I think that the reason I've been able to do some of the shows that I've been able to get onto in the last year and a half is just because of that hustle and that passion that every time I'm given 4 minutes, 5, 6, 7, whatever time I'm given, I just want to take every second of it and just be the best I could possibly be and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have that same work ethic. It's like we go an open mic with 3 people. Like I dress up, I'm prepared, I go. It doesn't make a difference to me whether I'm in in front of a handful of people or if I'm in front of it's been a while since I've been in front of like 100 or 200 people, but I treat it the same way. Like I put the same effort and practice and enthusiasm into it.
It's okay. I was just going to tell you about the small crowds and the big crowds that 3 weeks ago, I had a memory pop up from Yuck Yucks. I think it was a Saturday night. And Howard had asked me to come in and do a guest spot for James Mullinger. Mullinger was headlining, and he is obviously from the UK, but he lives in St. John, New Brunswick. So as we were just shooting the breeze in the green room, we have a mutual friend in St. John who we both know very well. So I was like, how small is the world? So I sent her a selfie of the 2 of us, and her head exploded. She was like, I knew you started doing comedy, but the fact that you and him are in the same room at a comedy club is insane. But the memory, what really blew my mind that night, and I'm pretty sure it was my wife who took the picture because she comes to like 90% of my shows, which is so great. She has a photo from the side, like pretty much standing in front of the green room door, out from the side view of me on stage and a sea of people at the club, right? Because I don't know, I don't remember if it was sold out or not. Like I know they weren't there to see me. They were there to see James Mullinger, but still, it was like, I can't remember, because since we've been back both times, the capacity has been 50 people, right? People are like, man, you're selling out your shows in Cornwall. I'm like, yeah, but it's not like 150 people that fit in there. It's the 50 people. And not that I'm discounting a sellout, because people want to get out and they want to laugh. But, there once was a time when you'd go into the club and you'd be performing for 100 people, like double the amount of people.
Oh, yeah. And people sitting shoulder to shoulder and
when
each other.
And when people laugh together, it's infectious, and the whole room gets into it. And if you can hit, we like to call it the pocket. Once you get into the pocket, and they're buying what you're selling, and you just keep hitting them with your next lines and your punch lines, there's no better feeling. And I remember having that kind of a night that night when I was able to do that spot when James Mullinger was in town, and the picture came up of me in front of a full Yuck Yucks, and I was like, oh, I just sat there and looked at it for like 20 minutes, like, oh my God, that was such a wonderful night.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Little did I know, a month later, we were going to lose all the times because we were shut down from pretty much March right through to what was it, July, I think, right?
Yeah.
Before we reopened. So
yeah, it was like late July, mid-July or something like that we reopened, I think.
Soon my Facebook memories will be sad, right? Because right now it's going to be from the lockdown now. I'll be like, oh God, we're still kind of there. Jeez,
like we're coming up to the tail end of like the memories from the before times.
Yeah. My happy times are about to expire in about 3-4 weeks.
It'll just be like sad selfies in your apartment.
Here we are alone again, survived another grocery run.
It's true. Yeah. They're coming to an end. Because I remember like this time last year, I was all like hyped up because I was going to a resort in Jamaica with my sister and my brother-in-law. I was going to have my birthday there, and it was like, woo, and
and now this year, your birthday will be in Alexandria, Ontario at the Atlantic Pub. You know what? I'll ask Ron to turn the heat up.
Exactly. Make it feel like Jamaica, please. And put some sand.
We'll ask everyone, wear your bathing suits. We're going to crank the heat.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. So, pretty soon our memories are going to be sad ones on Facebook. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. So just remember to cling to all of those good memories.
Oh yeah. Cause I don't know if it was the same for you, but like last year, that first one, it felt surreal. It was like, what's happening? What's going on? And then, we were hopeful that, okay, 30 days, like you still had, like I had a few things planned out, I think as far as May, and it was like, maybe. And then things just kept getting cancel. And then at one point we're just like, yeah, it's over. It's done.
Well, my first full pro weekend hosting at Yucks was supposed to be in May, and Kyle Brownrigg was the headliner. And obviously that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And then in July, I was going to middle for Mike Dambra. Like that was all set. And I had probably, I was booked pretty tight in April, May, and even into June with things. Wow. And then that July weekend with Mike Dambra. And then I never thought in a million years when it started that even in the summertime, those gigs would all be gone.
Yeah.
And I will be forever grateful to Howard for bringing me out to the first ever drive-in show.
Yeah, I was at that show.
And I still remember walking up those stairs. Oh, I remember my heart being in my throat going up those stairs because, I was the first one to ever do this. And I got up there and there was like 170 cars.
That was sold out too.
It was such a... Yeah, it was one of those... Another experience, like I have a bar here. You can't, it's over there. And I have some posters printed. I was at the Cornwall Comedy Festival was my first festival. So, and I'm on the poster. So that's going to go up at the bar. I've got a poster, a nice Yuck Yucks poster where Patrick Hay is headlining. I'm going to put that one up at the bar. But also the drive-in show, like I want to remember that drive-in show forever. And Rob Pugh headline, and Jen LaBelle was there, and Andrew Albert.
Yeah.
And they're just such fun people on top of fantastic comedians. Mm-hmm. And so we had a great time, backstage. There were a couple of cocktails there for us, and it was just, the bugs were insane up on stage with all the lights.
So hot, and you couldn't have your car running.
Oh yeah,
I was dying because I was with Georgia Silly, Andrew Wambold, and Aiden. What's her last name? I can't remember her last name, but Aiden. So the four of us were in the car and we were dying. and you weren't allowed to sit outside the car. Like you had to stay inside. At one point, we opened the doors because we're like, we're gonna die. And then the bugs. I remember a bug. I think
Oh yeah.
a bird flew through the car, like across my face and George's face, and we were like, "What was that?" It was just this giant thing. And I remember the you made us do the horn wave.
Yeah, that was fun.
And I recorded it. I've got a recording of it, and you can hear, you can tell the moment like when we were like in the vortex of it.
When it passes, yeah.
Because you hear it coming, and then like and then it moves on, and it was just the weirdest sensation sort of thing. But that was a lot of fun.
So that drive-in show was very cool, and the first Zoom show, and I haven't done a lot of Zoom shows, not because I'm not one of those anti-Zoom comics, but I haven't done a ton of them. I'm really not set up properly here. I live just outside of town, so my Wi-Fi is not the most grandiose, and I've run into some technical problems, so I try not to jump into too many of them. But the first one I ever did was just a fluke. It's a new company. I believe it's out of Ottawa. I think they're called Serio. And a local musician just knows the guy and said, I got a buddy who does comedy if you're looking for anybody. And they asked me to send a demo. So I sent a set from Yuck Yucks up there. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you. And I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
And then on that same show was like Leonard Chan, Adrian Fish, and the feature of the night was Tommy Chong.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the posters, my picture bubble is right next to like, this is a show featuring Tommy Chong, Dan Allaire. I'm like, as if that would ever happen in real life. So it's like, so I did that show. So that's another one of those posters that's going to get, mounted and put at the bar so that, I always going to have to qualify it with, like, let's be honest, it was a pandemic. If it was a show in a club somewhere where they were going to interview him like they did, it wouldn't be like, Dan, are you available to come to the show with Tommy Chong? But I was able to get it done. So it was kind of it's one of my highlights. One of my highlights from lockdown is doing a show that featured Tommy Chong.
Yeah, no kidding. That's amazing. That's amazing. Do you find like when things reopened in July and you were performing like up until the second lockdown, did you find that your comedy had changed? Not just in terms of like, okay, we all had a few COVID jokes and stuff like that. Do you find that like your way of thinking or your delivery or anything like that, did it change?
No, I don't think so. I don't know, and I don't even know what that means. Does it mean that I didn't grow as a person in the lockdown? Because I know in the first one, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have all this time to write all of this material, and I don't know that I wrote a ton, but I do have a few bits that came out of it. But no, I just feel like the first few sets, they just felt awkward because I was not used to it again. I was trying to like get back into my rhythm because before, when I was doing all those satellite shows for Yuck Yucks, I had a formula that seemed to work. I had a set list that I could mix and match. And, depending on where I was going, that'll fit in this one. Maybe I'll fit that one in. I wasn't in that place anymore, right? Every show I would just sit there with my notes and looking at my bits and just like, I just found preparing and organizing was a challenge every show just because they just didn't feel like, I've done this 1,000 times and I recorded a few of the early sets and just rewatched some things that were just such clockwork for me before where I would forget one of the tags on a joke and it was just like, why would I do that? I never forgot these things.
Yeah.
So I just feel like whenever it felt like there was some rhythm starting to return, we locked down again.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I noticed that too, that once we like got into the swing of things and things are being booked, and I think we're getting a little more like confident that we're going to keep going shut down, So it's like you run into a wall sort of thing. Because I was going to ask you about that, because I don't think I've ever said a bit the same way twice. I'm pretty sure I have, especially if it's a new one, because like you were saying, like you're trying different wording, timing, your pauses and stuff like that. So I don't think, or at least it takes a while until I say it the same way every set that I use it in, and then usually by that time it's like, okay, I'm going to retire it now, or I'm going to put it away and bring something else up. But yeah, I was thinking about that recently, and it's like, yeah, I don't think I've ever said it. Like, say a joke I did Thursday and that I did yesterday, I think I might have told them differently, like use different words or something like that. Just trying out different scenarios, for lack of a better term, And I think that's just the process.
Well, the one joke that I do that it's necessary in order to repeat the same thing is my Netflix and chili joke.
Yes,
because it's text messages back and forth, right? So in that joke, I think is it a year old? I think it's almost a year old, and I love that one. That's one of my most proudest pieces of writing, just because it's one of those that it seems like every text message gets a reaction from the crowd because they understand that we're having different conversations, but they both make sense to one another, and they know one's thinking about food, one's thinking about sex, and so in that case, those kind of sound the same. But I think for the most part, some of my jokes that I've been doing a long time, like you, the nuances are minor. Like, I don't ever repeat the same. I'm not a robot, right? It doesn't come out verbatim the same. But I would say 95% of the joke itself is all there. I just sometimes, I don't know if it's my mood or the crowd or what, but sometimes I'll just change up a word or two. But
yeah. I think one of my favorite jokes of yours is the
you're frozen on my end here again.
Oh, am I? I'm still frozen.
Yeah, well, I can hear you, but you're staring at me, and it's very awkward.
I'm like, but one of my favorite jokes of yours is the Mantown. Like the candle.
Oh, the Mantown candle. Yes.
That one makes me laugh so hard all the time. I love that one. That's so good.
That was my opening. Like as host, that was my closer before bringing on the first act all weekend in Kingston. I absolutely love performing that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's such a good one. Let me see. I've got I got a couple other questions that I wanted to ask. How do you deal with like if a bit doesn't land or you don't get a reaction? Like how did you deal with it when you were first starting out versus how you would handle it today?
Oh boy, I think when I first started, I think people would probably be able to tell based on my body language, just like, there was a lot firing in my brain about why didn't it work? Where do I go from here? What's happening? Why am I not funny? Is this really what I want to be doing? Oh, absolute freak out. In the span of 2.1 seconds. I think that the growth is, I've come to realize not everything, even though it might land 4 shows in a row, it doesn't mean that the 5th one is going to land again. And, it used to take me like a couple of days to get over a tough set, or even like one bit that I'm super proud of that just got nothing. And I would it would just play over in my head and play over in my head.
Just torment you.
And Oh, absolutely. It would haunt me for like at least 48 hours.
Wow.
And then, like radio, it's the same thing. Not everyone is going to love listening to my morning show. Like, not everyone's going to love my comedy and love all of my jokes. So if you know that it's been tested and proven and it didn't work tonight, you just, you lick your wound and you go on to the next joke. And I don't let it linger anymore. Does it bother me still? Sometimes.
Yeah.
And talking to Jeff and Pete, they were both at the Valentine's show at Absolute, and the Netflix and chill. I had the crowd with me every single line of that joke. Next, laugh, and it was like, okay, here we go. And then I hit the final tag, the last tag, nothing.
Oh.
And when I say nothing, not even one giggle, snort, chuck, nothing. It was almost like, wait a minute.
Like everyone died.
Did I just, what happened? You guys were like, laugh. Final line. Not even crickets would have been welcome. It was that quiet.
Crickets would have been sound. Oh my God.
And then what do I do from there? It's like, well, are you ready for your headliner? Now that I've completely fucked up my, like, what? Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. That's so strange.
Yeah, because in order for me to like finish on an absolute laugh and keep them going into the headliner, I would have had to start something else because I had just finished. And, based on the time, I'm not stealing time from the headliner. Exactly. So, I was like, it was just one line. So it's not like the whole thing didn't work. It was just like, and then it was almost like, in the cartoons when the trap door opens, the whole crowd disappeared for a moment, but then, they reemerged to clap for the headliner,
Wow.
It was a crazy, weird feeling. And I knew that it wasn't just me because my wife talked about it when I got back to the table. She was like, oh my God, I've never heard a room go so weird. Quiet. I'm like, isn't that eerie? Oh, and both Pete and Jeff said the same thing. Like it was like laugh,
and then
zero.
That's so weird.
And then it was like, all right, everybody, and your headliner's been a Just for Laughs and all this stuff, and obviously he won't bomb like I just did.
But that's so strange. Wow. Yeah. Especially, because usually it's like you don't have them at all, and maybe you might get them at the end. But to have them all the way and then at the end, nothing. That's so. I think I would be rattled with that. I don't think I could handle that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like when it was quiet, that night I did not tape that night, so I wasn't able to go. I would have liked to have seen because I know it felt like I just stopped talking for a second. And like I took a moment to go, what the hell just happened? And I was like, all right, it's time to bring up your headliner. I was just like, what? It was the weird in all of the like I've had horrible off nights like everybody else has had.
Yeah.
But I've never had a moment like that where let's just make it a round number. There are 10 lines in that joke that I would expect people to laugh. And the 10th one is the last one, and all 9 of them hit. And the 10th one, which is not, it's to me, it's the obvious line if you're paying attention to the whole bit. And when you deliver it, of course, yeah. Nothing. I was like, oh my God. I'm kind of sad that I don't have it on tape because I would actually like to show it to people to go, this is what happens when 97% of your joke works.
Yeah, exactly. That is so strange.
It was the weirdest thing.
That is very weird. That is very weird. I know in the beginning, if something didn't land, just out of nerve, I would start laughing. Like I would laugh myself. I would laugh for the audience sort of thing, just because like the silence freaked me out. So I'd be like, ha ha ha, after.
Well, it took a long time for us to actually meet in person.
Yeah.
I remember the night I met you. I walked over and introduced myself. I was hosting the first night of the Mike McDonald competition this past summer.
Right.
And we didn't share a stage together until I had you come out to one of my shows in Cornwall, which is crazy.
November. Yeah. Yeah. in November.
But I remember watching your YouTube videos that you would put up from either Yucks or Abs, and I would watch them and go, yeah, I love your stuff.
Thank you.
And I maybe obviously you probably didn't put those videos up, but I just thought the crowd really responded to your material, and I enjoyed the content, and I thought that, you know, for someone, and because I'm not that much more experienced than you are, because, you know, I'm not that far down the road, but you know, for someone, I think, of our vintage, starting a little bit later in our lives gives us a little bit of a leg up, because we've had a lot of time to fail in our lives, Simon.
Yes.
So you're able to handle some of that stuff a little bit better, I think, anyway. I don't know that I would have progressed the way I've progressed if I was, you know, 27 instead of 47.
Exactly. Same with me. Because I always look at it as, you know, the worst things that could have happened have already happened to me. So somebody not laughing, or, you know, something not landing. I mean, I don't like it, you know, but that's not going to set.
But we do have a bigger picture. Yeah, we have a bigger picture, and we know there will be another day, and we just keep fighting.
Exactly, and that comes with just experience, you know. So it's I mean, I know that I like put the hustle in, just because I'm like, I started really late, and, you know, I don't have, like, say, like our younger friends who are in their 30s or their 20s who could have 20, 30 years to do it. I don't have 20, 30 years to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, maybe.
Well, if we're still doing it in 20 or 30 years, Simon, we're doing a senior home tour together.
Yeah, exactly. the Walker tour. You know? The Depend.
I don't need a hotel. I just need somebody to bathe me in the morning. Is that possible here?
Just make sure their hearing aids are turned up. Yeah. So it's like, I know I don't have like 20 or 30 years left to do that. Well, God willing, that would be great. But, you know, I'm thinking maybe 10, but I don't even think that.
Yeah, because what are we like? So 20 years, I'll be 67 years old. I don't know that I'll still be a comic that is doing, you know, I don't know, was it 150 shows a year or whatever a good number would be.
Yeah, like in 20 years, I'll be 73. Like,
that's my favorite number. Check it out.
Oh, nice.
I knew you were going to say that. I drew it earlier.
You drew it earlier.
Magic.
Just like you willed it there. But yeah, it's like, so I want to make the most of whatever opportunities come my way, whatever things I can, whatever I can do, because I know I don't have the luxury of 20 plus years to do it. Like, I have like a short amount of time.
I think that, and I describe it this way to a lot of people, there are a lot of people who can go through like their whole careers and lives and enjoy their job and retire comfortably and, live out the retirement they want. But somehow, somewhere along the way, at the tender age of 44 years old, I found a new passion in my life. And I can't describe how much I love it. I find it interesting when people say, "Oh, are you still enjoying it?" I'm like, yeah, if you see me checking in all these random towns 2 or 3 times a week for a 7-minute set, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I love doing it.
Exactly.
But like you, I love it so much that, if it ever makes me a decent amount of coin, fantastic.
Oh yeah,
but
that's a bonus.
I'm not doing this because I have this grand plan that it's going to retire me into, a 6-figure contract somewhere doing this crazy amount of work. But if I can make a couple of shekels along the way and put them in a fun account and still, I still have a full-time job and
me too.
I still work.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a fun thing to do. And you know, I talked to some comics, like you said, who are a little younger, and they're like, oh man, you got to go out west. You know, I know some people that, you know, I can vouch for you. And I'm like, I don't know where in my life there's a hole for me to like carve out 2 or 3 weeks, even if you could put good words in and I could book the dates.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have the time or the equity saved up to be able to fly out there and do it.
Same. Or the energy. Like, I don't know if you know, like I know I have thoughts of like, oh yeah, I'd love to go to Halifax and do yucks there. But to say to go on like a 3-week tour of Western Canada or something, I mean, I think if that opportunity happened, I would try to make it happen just to do it. But I mean, I don't know how realistic that is for me at, you know, at the vintage age that I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We have built like a, you know, I have a mortgage. You know, I still
Yeah.
have one of my kids is still at home. You know, you have responsibilities here, and
Exactly.
you know, I'm blessed to have a spouse that's like, yeah, oh, you're doing all weekend in Kingston, and you're able to stay there. Okay, well, have fun, like, good luck, and
Mhm.
because it doesn't happen every weekend, so that's okay.
Right.
But I can just imagine how that conversation would go if I'd be like, guess what, honey? I'm blowing all of my vacation for the
Yeah.
year to go out west, not with you,
Yeah.
for like 3 weeks, and I'm doing I don't know how many club date tour
Yeah.
with such and such,
Yeah.
and I took time off without pay from my regular job. I don't know that I don't think that
I
conversation
don't
would
think that'll
go
go
very
over
well.
very well. It's true. It's true. It's like I like going to Montreal or going to Kingston or going to Cornwall. Like that's I find it fun, you know, just to be in like a different environment and stuff like that. But I don't know how fun it would be for me to be, you know, gone for like weeks at a time, you know. And the thing is I live alone and I have responsibilities. I have pets and like what am I supposed to do with them for all that time? So, yeah. And like that and that's okay. I mean, like I'm at a stage of my life where it's like this was a lifelong dream that I'm finally getting to do. So, if just the fact that I get to do it at all in any capacity is like amazing, you know? So, yeah, it's I'm just so glad I finally did it.
Yeah, we're you know, it's funny how we both have that same thing where it was always something in the back of my head, but it wasn't something that everyone around me knew.
Yeah, same.
Um, Even though in my phone, in my notepad, and it still lives today, I could scroll and show you all of the started jokes I have yet to write.
Yeah.
Some of them are probably hokey, and some of them maybe one day will turn into something. And I showed my buddy Mike Baird, who owns the restaurant in town where we did that first ever gig. And when I showed him that set I'm never going to do, he was like, oh my God. And he went to the bar, got his phone. He goes, look, I have the same thing. And I was like, if we only knew a guy who could pull off a show where, and he was like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? So that's how that all started. So like, you know, I've had that moment in time not happen, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because I'd still be, you know, doing radio and saying to myself, maybe one day. And, you know, looking back now at how many opportunities I've been afforded just through pure passion and connections and love of comedy.
Exactly.
I pinch myself still to this day, and I hope that continues. I have no plans on slowing down, but like you, the realistic goals of what I really would like to do have to stay grounded because, you know, I haven't received an email from Netflix yet, you know?
So I'm waiting for mine. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for that. You're special. You know, subject. Because I know, like, I
got an email from Netflix, though, but all they were telling me was that Firefly Lane was a new series on their streaming service.
Your My List has been updated, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I spoke to my sister and two of my closest friends on the show a few weeks ago. And only one of my friends, my friend Melissa, she was the only person that I had told that I wanted to do comedy when we were like 15. And she was like, "You really should, you really should." And then 2019, when I told her, I was at her anniversary party, and I was like, "Oh, I signed up for this course, and I'm gonna, do the comedy." And she's like, "It's about fucking time. I've been waiting 40 years for this." But then my sister, when I asked her, yeah, and then my sister, when I said, when I told you I was gonna do stand up comedy, like what was your reaction? Were you surprised? And she was like, "I was shocked." She's like, "I had no idea that that's something you wanted to do." And then it dawned on me, it's like, yeah, I didn't share it with my family. Like they knew I liked comedy because I would go to shows and, watch it on TV and stuff like that. But I'd never shared that like I had wanted to do it, like that I wanted to get on stage and actually do it. So it's like really only one person, my friend from high school, knew.
I guess the closest thing I would have, and what would keep me, I guess, somehow fulfilled to maybe one day do it, is as a radio host. I host a lot of events, right? And I'm not a guy who, I take a lot of pride in not having to use notes. I don't like to read scripts especially if I'm in front of a crowd. And this isn't a stand-up thing. This is more like an emceeing thing where, when you go up there, I always used to tell them, just give me the run of the night and then I'll make it work, because it needs to sound like it's coming from a place of this guy knows what he's talking about. He's in charge of the night. But when I would host, there were a few events where I would literally prepare a line or two to try and make people laugh. So I wasn't writing comedy, but I guess I was preparing like the little bits subconsciously, maybe preparing for something I never knew was going to really happen. Yeah. But just those, and I would get such a charge out of being on stage, like our Chamber of Commerce Business Excellence Awards. I'm in a tuxedo, and I know the movers and shakers of Cornwall and area, so I was comfortable, roasting a few of them and having some fun and making jokes. And I would always have 2 or 3 prepared jokes if something in the room didn't catch my attention to make a quip about to bring everybody in. I like the inclusivity of an ad-lib joke that everyone could be in on. And so I've been doing that for the better part of almost 20 years, hosting events and making people laugh. Not, my job wasn't to go up there for 8 minutes and try and be as funny as I could, but I would definitely, people kind of got to know me as the MC who was fun. It was fun, and he would come up with a joke here and there. So
so you tried to incorporate it into what you were doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there's no greater feeling, and it too, than going up, whether it's 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, whatever the number is, to go up and from the first line to almost the last line, just have everyone take that little journey with you. Yeah. And then when you come off stage, I always say to my wife, I wish you could just feel what's happening internally right now, because I'm vibrating. It's so good. Yeah, such an exhilarating thing, and I'm glad to be able to live that more often than not now. So I'm not stopping anytime soon. Where this is going to go, who knows? But again, I don't have lofty goals, but I know I'd like to do a little bit more than what I am now.
Same with me. And I'd like to do it for as long as I physically can. Like ideally, I would drop dead on stage, and that would be it. At 73 or whatever, just keel over. It's like done. Okay. Ideally, that's what I would. That's how I'd like to go out. Or they wheel me up onto the stage.
I hope I'm not at that show.
It'd be like a bit of a downer.
Actually, you know what? Wouldn't it be something if I was at that show and you drop like a sack of hammers and I'm just like, standing ovation. She died doing what she loved, everybody. And they'd be like, who is this idiot?
She told me. Exactly. Or even if they got to wheel me up on the stage and put the microphone in front of me, and I just, as long as I can do it, I will do it, So,
That's awesome.
so I usually like to end.
So maybe that senior home tour is on the docket.
Yeah, yeah, it's on the list. Yeah, we'll have it on the list.
Awesome.
I usually like to end the conversation with asking like silly questions. So I've got like 62 random questions. I'm not going to ask.
Oh boy. Okay.
But you could probably do one or two. And so if you could pick a number
Cool.
between 1 and 62, I will read the corresponding question.
8.
8? Okay.
8.
Okay. Number 8 is, which holiday would you erase altogether from our calendars if given the opportunity?
Ooh. Man. I don't know. Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
because I've been married. I've been married 22 years. I don't need one day to tell my wife I love her and remind the people I love that I love them. So because I don't need it anymore, that's the one I'd turf.
Okay. I don't need it anymore either. It just makes me feel bad. So I'm with you. I get rid of it for different reasons. I hate it. It just reminds me that I'm going to die alone on stage.
On stage, yes.
Okay, let's do one more.
22.
22. What was your first job?
My first job lasted 1 day. My cousin is an electrician, and he started his own company. There's about a decade between the two of us. And so he started his company in his early 20s, which would have had me at about 12 or 13. And he brought me on. He's like, "Hey, Dan, you want a job? Like, I could use just someone to, do like just little mundane things." And I was like, "Oh my God, that'd be amazing." And after 1 day, I'm so unhandy, even for the most mundane and simplest of tasks, that he never asked me to do another day again. So I worked with an electrician for 1 day only. That was my first job.
And he's like, "Thanks."
Yeah, exactly. Hey, appreciate your help, but you're never coming back again.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for talking to me tonight. This was a lot of fun. So thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for joining us, and see you next time.